The absolute limit of human life is 125 years. For giant turtle is 250. Greenland shark can live 500 years, and the age of the sponge Scolimaster jubini is estimated to be around 20,000 years. But the absolute record is jellyfish. The Medusa Turritopsis nutricula is immortal, like some characters of Lord of the Rings. It can die from hunger, cold, predators, but never from old age. After reproductive cycle, it goes back to juvenile stage as more or less Benjamin Button did, if you remember. But the question is, can a human achieve immortality? What happens to our body when we age? There is a common myth that in ancient time people lived less and aged earlier. That's not really true. Of course, the average age of dying was less than now, but solely because of pandemic, wars, and the huge amount of infant deaths that confuse statistics. But the 1,000 years, human beings had more or less the same life limit and age more or less in the same diapason. So after big 30 years old anniversary, we usually lose muscle mass, but instead we gain fat and water. We lose some calcium in our bones, so that's why they petrify. We lose elastin and collagen in our skin and also muscles. Our immunity system becomes weaker. We lose the amount of hormones since we don't need to reproduce anymore. And saddest of all, we lose psychological and neuropsychological abilities because of the loss of neurons. So why does it happen to us? The science which study all relevant processes calls gerontology. And despite the fact that world itself was established in the beginning of 20th century by Ilya Mechnikov, the study about why we age and how to prevent it existed as life itself. So let's talk about possible theories that we managed to create through all this time. Hayflick limit. We have different types of cells in our body. There are reproductive cells, aka gametes, and somatic cells, which are the rest of us. So basically our organs, skin, tissue, bones, and the rest of the body made of somatic cells, so they're kind of big deal. In order for our body to grow, to replace the damaged tissue and just recover, this is necessary for those somatic cells to divide. The process of duplication calls mitosis. DNA replicates and the cell divides in two equal halves, so each newborn cell has the same genetic information. Most of all, in this process, we are interested in the process of DNA replication. On the end of each chromosome, there are special section which calls telomeres, which usually performs protective function. And each time a chromosome divides, telomeres shorten a little. So they become shorter and shorter each time. Leonard Hayflick in 1962 figured out that after 52 such cycles, somatic cell dies because there are no telomeres in it anymore. So sooner or later, all bulk of cells in our body will no longer be able to divide, so we die. Let's move to the next theory, the damaged DNA. So just imagine, every cell in our body has more than 100,000 damages per day. It usually happens because during the process of metabolism, we produce some kind of aggressive chemicals. Sometimes it also happens because of exposure to external agents, for instance, radiation. Of course, our body tries to repair the damage, but the process of reparation is extremely insufficient, as would, for instance, Wolverine had, and also very expensive from an energetic point of view. The long story short, the older cell it is, the more damages it has, which it passes to the future generation of cells. So one day our cells are so damaged so we can't function anymore and we die. Okay, let's move to the next theory, the last one but not the least, and surely my favorite one, the theory of antagonistic pleiotropy. pleiotropy is a phenomenon when one gene is responsible for different features. For instance, there is a gene which is in charge for ginger color of hair. Also, this gene is affecting the amount of pigment in skin. That's why usually ginger people are very pale and can't tolerate sun very well. But sometimes those genes can play a very evil game with you. Let me give you a simple example. Let's imagine there is a gene which is in charge for calcium fixation in our bones. And it's very good in young age because it makes our bones stronger, prevents it from breaking, and we can run around, find a partner, procreate, and complete our evolution purpose, right? But those genes also bring some calcium atrophication in the future, and it causes actually osteoarthrosis, which makes our bones very fragile. The theory also known as enjoy now and pay later, which really makes sense. Technically, evolution gives you some kind of advantage in the beginning of your life so you can mate and pass your genes to the future generations. But once you're done with that, you're no longer needed. Biologist George Williams made some experiment with Drosophila flies and some other animals which actually proved this idea. Technically, he prevented procreation artificially, and what do you think? These animals who didn't procreate in the beginning of sexual cycle live longer, 25 to 50%, than others who had chance to procreate as fast as they had chance. Isn't it fascinating? I mean, I really recommend you to use this argument if society or your family really puts pressure on you while you still don't have kids. Okay, so we figured out why and how it happens. Let's see how we can prevent it. So, scrolling through National Archive of Computerized Data on Aging, I found out some fascinating perspectives. And I'm not talking about Philosopher's Stone or Elixir of Youth, which would be awesome though. We just need to live long enough to live forever. And I'm talking about technological singularity. Then artificial intelligence become independent and can figure out everything to us. Of course, it's possible, theoretical event which might happen in the future. We all remember what happened in Terminator or in Matrix, but we still hope that our fate will be better and our Silence or Skynet will service our needs. How naive, don't you think? Anyway, according to some futurologists, this event already might happen in 2045 or slightly later, in 2075. So just figure out how to survive until then and it's done. If you're about to die earlier, you might be interested in cryonics. Cryonics is a process of low temperature freezing and storage a human corpse or just a head, with possible hope that in the future the process of resurrection might be invented. I personally don't believe in success, but these researches might be useful for a future interplanetary journeys, so let's make people work. What else can we do? There are some ongoing researches on scanning and mapping human brain. A full brain map has been estimated to occupy around 20,000 terabytes of information. Since 2006, Blue Brain Project managed to scan one part of the rat's brain and used one supercomputer and 8,000 processes to just model 10,000 neurons. And by the way, we have 86 billions of them. You might hope that one day they will scan your brain, they put their computer simulation in the android body, and you really can live forever without having actual damage to your physical presence. And this is indeed technological immortality I'm hoping for. Let's see more realistic ways. We already remember that one of the reasons of aging is telomeres to cease. And also we remember there are some cells and creatures which can prevent it using the enzyme telomerase. So there is alternative to increase this enzyme in our body artificially using embryonic stem cells. But we are not certain yet what it might also cause the cancer process, because as we remember, the enzyme telomerase is also a constant companion of the cancer cells. But this research looks very promising. What else do we have? The cloning our organs to have them brand new, the possible nanorobots which can repair damaged DNA, and geroprotectors. And this is exactly what you can try already now. Basically, there are chemicals which we found out occasionally to be able to prolong animals' life, including us. They might be natural, like melatonin, vitamin A, C, D, sexual and thyroid hormones, and might be synthetic. There is such a chemical component which calls sirolimus, and during the experiments they figured out that it can increase the mice life up to 38%. Just imagine 30 to 50 lives for humans if we compare. Not bad, huh? Unfortunately, it has a side effect, immunosuppression, if you use it in big doses. But you can check out other chemicals on the website geroprotectors.org to start a fight against aging. In the end, allow me to give you some advices. First of all, watch the movie The Man from Earth by 2007. Do contemplate about if you really want to live forever and what kind of philosophical and ethical consequences might be. Also, sleep enough, because melatonin is very important. Control the level of vitamins, especially D, A, C, E, and fix deficiency in time. Slow down your life. Sleep in cold rooms, meditate, and also train your breathing system. Follow the probiotic diet and take care of your food seriously. And don't listen to anyone who gives you advices, because immortality doesn't make any sense if you're not happy about that. Live long and prosper, my friend, and don't forget to subscribe.